Hi, it's Jay from Iridescent Tarot back with some more sparkle for you. So today I want to talk to you about how I went from feeling like I was eating my tarot vegetables with Thoth to feeling like I'm eating my tarot dessert. And a lot of that has to do with you guys, the people who watch my videos. So let's rewind it back to about 8 months ago. I posted a video called My Thoth Tarot Study, aka Eating My Tarot Vegetables. I shared my experience with starting a Thoth study where I was going in really intensely with these two books here. The original Book of Thoth by Aleister Crowley and Understanding the Thoth Tarot by Lon Milo Duquette. And I was reading both of these books at the same time, and I was taking copious notes, and I was repainting the pictures of the Thoth in my own style, and it was overwhelming. I felt really stuck, like I should be studying my Thoth because that's what it was time to do, and dragging my feet on it. Like I felt like there was just so much to get through. I knew going into it that I was never going to really be able to memorize the correspondences, the Tree of Life and Kabbalah and all of that stuff. I knew that the majority of that was going to go over my head, but I wasn't even really loving the parts that I did absorb. And I think that a lot of it with the Book of Thoth itself and these mathematical and letter things, like that just doesn't do much for me as a tarot reader. I'm not that deep into the esotericism that is involved in this. At least reading it alongside with this Lon Milo Duquette book, it was helping translate that information that felt like it was way above my level of understanding into something that had a little bit of humor in it and was more down to earth and understandable. I still didn't feel like it was for me. Okay, it's the next day. I got pulled away, hence the change in nail polish to lack of nail polish. So I'm sorry if my train of thought jumped a little bit. But essentially, reading the Lon Milo Duquette book alongside the Book of Thoth was extremely helpful because it basically translated all of the stuff that was really kind of hard to understand into something that was more graspable. And Lon's actually really funny. And so there were like humorous points throughout this book that I was able to kind of like give a little chuckle and make it feel not so heavy. But ultimately, this still felt like something that wasn't truly for me. And so when I posted my Thoth video about how I was struggling to like make it through this process, I got some really interesting and helpful comments in my comment section. Con7459 recommended that I check out the Thothtober series by Ever Onward, and I watched all of those. I did a couple of the little practices, and that was super helpful. It was a way to get me more like actually engaged in the cards. Valerie9367 mentioned that they enjoyed the post-Crowley layers to the Thoth, like depth psychology and Freud-Jung integration, and I want to follow up on that because I haven't really found anything. I haven't looked that hard, but that really interests me, and if anyone has resources about that, I would love to hear more. Elena from Mermaid's Dream Tarot recommended check out Joe Monteleone's videos, and so I did that. That was super helpful, but I still felt like I didn't really grasp the quartz even after watching dedicated videos about them. At some point while I was talking to Rachel from Second Thoughts about the mission, she mentioned that one of the most helpful things for her was just sitting in an armchair and gazing at the artwork. And that actually really helped me kind of loosen up my grip on this feeling like it was so serious, so studious of a process. And then the comment that has stood out the most and actually rings through my head a lot now was Julia from Highly Sensitive Tarot. And she said, and I quote, "You sound like a real perfectionist." I was like, damn, she's right. You're right. You're 100% right. And it actually was like the reality check that I needed to be like, okay, like I need to let some of this go. If it ain't working for me, I just need to let some of it go and move on. And I know that Julia is a very kind and sensitive person. It's in her channel name, Highly Sensitive. I know that. So really helped me to see some like perfectionistic tendencies that I had even within the study that I hadn't been recognizing. And I do use the tarot for self-reflection and self-improvement, and that is something that I am like that I'm working on. So I just really appreciated her holding up that mirror and allowing me to then use that to release this grip that I had on this study and what the Thoth was supposed to be. Echoing some of the other comments was Whale Song, and they mentioned the Gerd Ziegler book and Angelus Aaron's The Tarot Handbook. And they asked some similar questions. Do you like the Thoth as a tarot? Do you like the art? Simply allow yourself to read with it. And so after all these shackles were released about this study, I got myself just a plain old AGM large size Thoth, and I modded the crap out of it. I added sparkle film paper, and then I trimmed all the borders and the titles off, and then I rounded the corners, and then I edged the sides in gold sparkle, and then I added some sparkly detailing to the back sides. And throughout this process of mangling this deck and turning it into something beautiful that I truly love, I was able to form a deeper connection with it than I had in months of reading through those books. It really set the artwork free for me, having them not be within those thick borders, and also something about removing some of those really confronting keywords that come along with the Thoth, released the tension of just like the negative feelings that come up when some of the cards are pulled with words like cruelty or ruin or strife, like just some of those heavy keywords that you don't really want to see come up in a reading, like for the most part, right? For a little while, I read with this deck just keywordless, bookless, because I felt like as much of a deep dive as these books were for what Crowley and Lady Frida Harris were going for in the imagery and those deeper esoteric meanings, they didn't actually ever give me what I could personally use as anchoring points for moving forward in reality if I came to the cards with a question. This Gerd Ziegler book. I've seen people mention this as like the little white book of the Thoth, and that's exactly how I would describe this. The descriptions in this book don't get into any of those like mathematical equations and letter and Hebrew letters and any of those things that just felt like was just kind of a mind scramble for me. It's not in here. And the descriptions that are in here do have a very heavy psychological lean to them, which is what I like in my tarot decks. Mirror of the Soul is an excellent title for this book because that is the lens through which this book is written and allows you to interact with the cards. So you've got the keywords, the description, and then on the back page here, you have a question, a suggestion, and an affirmation. I love all that. I love it. So I've been reading with the Thoth, either without any guidebook or using that Mirror of the Soul as my little white book. And it has been like paradigm shifting for the way that I work with the Thoth Tarot. It truly allowed it to become more accessible to me. And it's a heavy hitting deck. It is. It's intense, but it's not unreachable anymore with that book. Now, as I mentioned, I also bought this tarot handbook and I have not started this yet. It's definitely the biggest of the books, and if I wanted to continue to deepen my understanding of the Thoth, I think I would use this for like level 2 for my next delve into a study. But for right now, I truly feel content just reading with them intuitively and using the Mirror of the Soul. I didn't want to scrap the keywords altogether. So I also bought this quintessential Thoth that was made by one of our very own tarot tubers, Lennon Smith. And I loved this because it was super, super abstract. I remember watching a video that either Lennon or Marlena Teresa had made, and one of them had described it as like the blood of the Thoth. It's like if you take that wild essence Thoth that she made, and then you distill it down even further into the quintessential elements of the Thoth. And I really liked that idea. And so I purchased this deck, and I did end up re-adding in the keywords in white pen. Now, this is an easy fix, because if I don't want these anymore, these are like easily scrapable off. So it's not a permanent thing. It's just what I wanted to do. And I like them because they're not really intrusive. They're small. I don't have to reference them, but they're there if I want them. And this feels like another entry point into the Thoth where it's not as serious and heavy as the way that I feel the traditional Thoth with the borders can be. Does that make sense? And in all honesty, I'm a little bit hesitant to show you like a sample reading of the way that I'm reading with Thoth now, because I feel like there are a lot of Thoth tarot purists out there, and that's great for you. Like, that's something that works for you, that you enjoy in your life, but it doesn't mean that everybody has to read that way. And one of the strongest things that I took away from the Marseille study was the fact that there really are so many ways to read the tarot. The RWS meanings are just one path that you can go down to understand and connect with tarot cards. But what I took from Marseille is that you don't have to use the RWS meanings. You can rely heavily on the numerology, on the suits, on the elements, on what you see in the cards. And that's the biggest thing, is what do I see in the card in front of me? And that pearl of wisdom of what am I looking at? What do I see here with my own eyes? Not what some guidebook told me, not what I think that this card should mean, not anything that's been imposed from the outside in, but what do I see from the inside out? And that pearl transcended through my Marseille cards into the RWS cards, and now it has like rubbed off into the way that I look at the Thoth cards. So even though I'm no Marseille expert, I am kind of reading Thoth as the same way that I approach Marseille now. And I'm going to show it to you, but I hope that you can kind of suspend disbelief for a minute and not think about what these cards should mean, and just allow them to speak to you with their own voice of what we're looking at in the cards here. For me, it was really helpful to read the Book of Thoth and the Lon Milo Duquette book, because I feel like I have this base knowledge of what they were kind of going for. And I can, like, now that I understand the rules, I can break them. But I don't even know that that is necessarily needed. It feels good to me to have that, but I don't think that it's necessary. So let's just take a look at a practice reading and see what comes through. Let's just ask the cards, why does Thoth Tarot feel so intimidating to so many people? It's a sentiment that I've seen so many times through TarotTube and just out there on the interwebs. Why does Thoth Tarot feel so intimidating? So first I'm going to tell you what I see, and then I'm going to tell you how I'm interpreting it. I see a lot of like flowing water. This is a very watery looking card with the two cups that are overspilling into whatever body of water this is. This is a fortress that's kind of like impenetrable and has a lot of structure to it. It's very square. And then this, I just immediately see the Tree of Life, and that shape depicts the Tree of Life. So what this is saying to me is that maybe people who are thinking about reading with Thoth are coming at it from a place of maybe they're really comfortable and read intuitively with RWS or Marseille or whatever other system that they're used to. They have this level of mastery and flow, and they have this underlying comfort level with their previous system, and there are like intuitive hits that come flowing from when they look at the cards. And the thought of the Thoth Tarot having some of these more overtly structured elements to them, like the Tree of Life, feels very rigid, and it can feel like there's not really an easy way in, that it's a large hurdle to cross over to get into the understanding. And that's really reinforced here by the Tree of Life that is depicted in this card. It's like, hey, this is overwhelming because people don't feel like they can really get a grasp on what all this Malkuth and Chakma and all those things, like, what the heck does any of that mean? And maybe it's it's not just learning Thoth, but it's learning Thoth plus all these other systems and elements that feels like it's too much. 10 of Cups being like too much of water. That like peaceful level of understanding that exists with the prior understanding of whatever system feels overwhelmingly like water, like drinking out of a fire hose, trying to gather all this information for Thoth. So that's one way I would read it. If I want to try to like mix it up a little bit and think of another interpretation, I would say maybe people feel so intertwined with their previous system that they can't get unentangled from it, and that maybe Thoth feels like a little gatekeepy, but they feel like if they did manage to learn the system, that they would gain a lot from it. They'd feel like a true sense of completion, accomplishment, and fulfillment in learning the system, but they don't feel like they're allowed into this like secret society type feeling. Now, is any of that going to be in these books? I highly doubt it. So what are the keywords for these 3 cards? Beats me. Let's take a look and see what they are. For 2 of Cups, it's love. For the 4 of Pentacles, it's power. And the 10 of Cups is satiety. So now, if I think about the things that I said intuitively, just from looking at the pictures, I think about maybe having love for the prior system, the Thoth feeling like maybe it's too powerful, or there's this level of like power play that goes into the Thoth tarot, and satiety being over full, right? Like it's too much. So it still reflects the things that I said, but I'm glad that I didn't have the keywords to try to like get there. If we look at the Mirror of the Soul here, I'm going to read the entries for each of these and see what else we get. 2 of Cups, keywords: Venus in Cancer, receptive love, happy relationships, emotional exchange. Description: if you love yourself, you are attractive to others. Your receptiveness towards yourself prepares you to give yourself totally to someone else. A deep emotional exchange will be possible, a giving and receiving of overflowing love. The union occurs in complete harmony, as symbolized by the entwined fishes. 2 lotus blossoms rise out of the mud and bloom. The cups are filled and overflow, symbolizing the overflowing emotional riches present. This is an image of complete joy and silent ecstasy. The water is still and the sky clear and blue. Deep joy, yellow, flows into the emotions, water, and the energy of renewal, green, permeates them, compared to 2 of Swords. Thoughts are free and clear, blue sky. Seen through the eyes of love, the world appears transformed. Indications: your readiness to receive love makes you attractive. Surrender to yourself, to others, to life. Question: with which persons and which surroundings can you now share your love? Suggestion: pay attention to the love coming to you now. Remain open and let it enter you and go deep inside. Affirmation: there is nothing to do but enjoy what life offers. I am now ready to let into my life the love relationships which will fulfill me. 4 of Pentacles. Oh yeah, they're called discs. Okay. Keywords: Sun in Capricorn, manifestation, integrity, character. The 4 discs are set in a square representing the 4 corner towers of a fort. Each bears the sign of an alchemical element. This formation symbolizes security and strength on all levels of being. The power expressed in the card is shown in the solid, almost rigid form of the building. Everything is in its place. No superfluous ornaments decorate the fortress walls. This submission to a prescribed order has both positive and negative aspects. Such a compact, closed system with visible boundaries and solid standards provides certain advantages. A person with such attributes has character, is someone to depend on. Such a person remains unshakably true to personal principles and conducts all dealings with absolute integrity. This is the rare person who lives out his or her ideals. Another possible meaning is crystallization, holding rigidly to the letter of the law, becoming a stickler, crusading for one's principles. One's guidelines and commandments take on a life of their own, and upholding the standard seems more important than being vital and human. Natural impulses are suppressed in order to not compromise one's character. Cold, stiff politeness replaces real warmth and friendship. Indication: the meaning of the card depends on the background of the person who draws it. The card can be an admonishment indicating a need to become more established in one's character and integrity, or it could be a challenge to submit one's rules and principles of life and the impulses of the heart. Question: is your life, your behavior like a rigid fort, or does your life, your behavior need more order, structure, and solidity? Suggestion: study the different aspects of power. Affirmation, I offer my power in the service of love. And 10 of Cups. Keywords, Mars and Pisces, satisfaction, fulfillment, radiating. The 10 cups are arranged in the form of the tree of life. Everything is in its right place in perfectly harmonious order. This is an image of deep fulfillment. The oversized lotus blossom at the crown of the tree testifies to the wealth of love received, which now overflows and pours into all who take part. Everyone who is prepared to receive takes part in this rich river of love. The handles of the cups are made of ram's horns. The transformation is complete, gold, and now can combine with the energy of Mars. Mars in the constellation Pisces, spiritual, expresses itself not by being crude, injurious, or unruly, but by providing the apparently fragile being with the decisiveness needed to bring forth into the outer world the beauty which it holds deep within. This does not require any dramatic demonstrations of emotion. A fulfilled person simply radiates this quality and is recognized by the fruits he or she bears. Indication, let things develop by themselves. Everything comes to you at the right moment. Suggestion, what does satiety mean for you in this situation? Suggestion, relax, close your eyes, and breathe deeply and calmly. Let a picture arise in you which shows you a state of complete fulfillment. Repeat this exercise often and connect this feeling more and more with your reality. Affirmation, life gives me all I need to be happy. So after reading those, I kind of feel like this openness and receptiveness is there. Like maybe the person thinking about the Thoth really likes the imagery, but then they're afraid of more of this dogmatic, rigid, compact closed system that was mentioned. But if they allow some of those more intuitive messages to come through, they can kind of I think it said, everything comes to you at the right moment. The cards are going to give you what you need to take from them in that moment. Okay, does that make sense? Do you want to do another one? What is our question this time? How can I continue to deepen my relationship with a Thoth? Ooh. So what I see here is this beautiful bright sun radiating outwards, and these two cherub-looking creatures down below raising their arms up as if they're joyfully dancing. And then we have, what was this again? Power. And then again, right in the center, we have our very structured square building that on first glance has one entry point and one exit point. But if you look closely, I do see escapes on either side. And then over here, we have what looks like a pyramid. If it's 3D, it kind of comes up to a point here at the top, and there's a coin on each corner of it. And it's like the sands of time are being pushed away by whatever this, pyramid is in the center. And the intuitive hits that I'm getting from these cards are, yes, make this video, talk about what you've learned from your Thoth study. Like, share it with the world, the insights that you gleaned from reading these books and the conclusions that you've made, integrating what you learned in the Marseille study with what you've done in this Thoth study, and let that radiate outwards and be happy in your joy in reading with the Thoth now that didn't exist before. But also, we don't want to totally let the structure of Thoth go to the wayside. I feel like this card is telling me, don't put this in the back of the bookshelf. Keep your resources out so that you can reference them and still continue that structured learning. But at the same time, you have these escape routes that allow you to use your intuition with the cards. It doesn't have to be all structure. It can also be the intuition behind it as well. This is one of the rare cards that the keyword does come to mind when I see it. And so as soon as I pulled this, I heard the word works in my mind's ear, right? So that's the keyword that goes along with this card. And so what that said to me was, continue working with the tarot. Continue working with the Thoth tarot. And not just in a way of reading cards and reading the books, but working with it creatively. Like what really sparked my love for this deck right now was the modification process of making it my own. And this card seems to be telling me to not forget that that's what allowed this connection to form in the first place, and in order to continue forging a relationship with Thoth, I'm going to need to keep doing something creatively, which that might mean continuing my watercolor journey of it. Actually, I initially intended to paint every picture as I went through learning each card, and that just didn't end up coming to fruition. I made a handful of cards, and I really liked doing it, but it was super slowing me down in the actual learning process. So maybe that last card is telling me to continue my works, continue this creative venture, to deepen my understanding in a way that still feels fluid and creative and not so for what the heck is it called? Coins. I'm sure there's going to be people who watch this and think, you're doing it wrong. And to that I say, guess what? Julia from Highly Sensitive Tarot emboldened me to let that shit go, okay? And you know what? I did. And sometimes people are going to come to tarot with different starting points. Maybe there are some people who come to tarot and are on the super perfectionistic end, and the introspection can help bring them back to a point more center. And some people are going to come to the tarot like totally loosey-goosey and without any kind of structure. And maybe they want a little bit more of that and are going to use the tarot to try to find ways to add more structure to their life. But for me personally, this was an exercise in letting go. And I think for me, that is what I need. Regardless of the future readings that I even get with this deck, I can say that I've done some deep work with this deck, and that's real, and that's enough for me. Modifying and freeing this deck from the borders allowed me to tear down the tower that I had associated with the Thoth Tarot. No one is coming and reading my tarot journal and telling me that I'm doing my readings wrong. Nobody is going to grade you after your tarot readings, especially if you're reading for yourself. And if reading Thoth Tarot is something that you've always wanted to do, but you've held yourself back because of all the things that I've talked about in this video, I can say from my personal experience that I used this deck as a way to release myself from that. And for that, I will be forever grateful. I hope that you enjoyed. If you have any questions about anything that I talked about, please drop them down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe, all the things, and I will talk to you later. Signing out.